Avatar
you know,
before I came in here.
which companies are in like the ghetto and which ones are like premium companies. And you notice like there's only one phone company on the board. There's only one video game company. There's only one, you know. So
it's okay.
I just would love to be. I've been in the room for all of the nightmare conversations that went on when they were trying to get the licensing to put, you know, 20 different brands on the Monopoly board together. So that one, and that one's fun too, actually, because it's really fast. It goes a lot quicker. We got Yellowstone Monopoly, which is really, you know, we got that when we were at Yellowstone.
Interesting.
Oh, and then he's found a few of them that are like he's got one from 1961 that he got at Goodwill for $5, $4. That's really, you know,
cool.
The old vintage one with little the original houses and the original pieces and the original instructions, like the instruction manual, which is really fun.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like his favorite thing right now is collecting Monopoly games.
Have you seen a lot of small town monopolies?
Not yet. I mean, we're kind of hitting up. Like I said, we're hitting up the Goodwills. To a lot of them have the same versions, like a Monopoly Junior that everybody bought at one point and then never played. And donated to Goodwill. We haven't seen like the quirky ones.
Realty agents back in the 90s would like make them for their town.
Of course.
And so, so my parents have one, and I thought it was like a one-off thing until I went to my aunt's house and they had one from a different town. I'm like, oh yeah, they're making a thing out of this. So all sorts of little small towns would make them with, you know, local businesses. So
yeah,
just switch the names out.
I've been wanting to make a Breath of the Wild Monopoly board. I've got a laser cutter, and we've done most of the design in Photoshop and figured out all the locations and the parks and everything. It's just haven't done it yet. But it'll be like a 12-hour engraving job anyway to engrave out the picture, so I haven't quite carved out 12 hours that I want to sit in front of the laser cutter to watch it burn. And there's people on Etsy who will make custom Monopoly boards, which is really weird because you're not supposed to be able to just make a Monopoly game, but there's a ton of listings for like your wedding Monopoly. You can get custom Monopoly with all your friends' houses on it or something.
That's cool.
That's about all I know. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, that's awesome. I had no idea. He would love, he would love to do it. We'd love to play it or watch it.
Do you play it the right way or do you play it the Minnesota way?
What's the Minnesota way? Oh, wait.
Where
Is this
everybody's
like
too nice?
Parking?
Yeah.
Well, there's the only two ways I know to play are that if you have to pay money, it goes in the center, and if you land on free parking, you get to collect the money. Some people don't want to play that way, and some people do. So.
Yeah, it's the bad way to play.
Well, it makes the game really long.
Yeah. Well, the way you're supposed to play it is you're supposed to get properties and then put them up for auction, and then force somebody else to pay for a property to stop somebody else from getting the monopoly. And so you get these low-end things selling for really high, all to stop somebody from becoming getting a monopoly or putting them into a lot of debt for it. But nobody plays that way because it's not nice.
Oh. Yeah, my son doesn't play nice. He plays to win. The rest of us play to see the game come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Growing up, me and my brothers all had ADD, so we couldn't play full games, so we just deal all the properties out at the beginning. And then the game's only like a half hour.
Wait, what?
Like Speed Monopoly or something.
All the properties right from the start.
Hmm. We have one called Mega Monopoly. The board is bigger. There's a lot more properties, but there's also like a bus you can get on. So it lets you go faster, or like, I don't remember exactly how the bus works, but basically, like, it makes the game go a lot faster. It's actually pretty fun. So, because you got Mega Monopoly, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be an AR game. They fixed it with the bus mechanic.
Right click.
Under the Boardwalk. I'm gonna look that up.
Not to change the subject, the one that's about The Price is Right documentary is really good too. The guy who like memorized every price of everything.
Oh, I've seen that.
It's great.
Yeah,
What's it
I think
called?
I've seen that. Yeah, I can't remember what that's what it's called, but it's a great story. And they thought he was cheating, and he had just like
Yep.
it was just a pattern. Like, they just kept putting the same products up, so he created spreadsheets and memorized them all.
Perfect bid. That's what it's called, because he was able to put the exact price.
What's
to
it
the
called
penny
again?
for the perfect bid. Maybe
Ooh.
one of those
Under the
absolute
Boardwalk is
fanatics
included
about
on
it.
Prime Video. So thank you. Thanks, Jeff Bezos.
Well, I think we should get rolling. I know it's not perfect. Not everybody's here. It's going to be very exciting technically, but we have a few people on the stream. I think Nick might be on the stream right now.
Can we talk about this space a little bit? And
Sure.
this is a new room for us.
It is. Yeah. So here, let me get louder.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Louder?
Yep.
Yeah. So welcome. This is MNVR and HCI in AltSpace. It's always a little bit exciting. They dropped a new update about an hour before we started. Some things got better. I'm not super excited at the moment, but Scott's Macintosh is able to see the screen, which a day ago it couldn't. So, good and bad. But we're meeting here in AltSpace. We do that most of the time. And previously, we had used a feature called Groups that was sort of like a semi-private world. Today, we're trying out something new, which is their code feature, which lets us have a semi-secret code that puts you into a public room that isn't listable any other way. So we give that a shot and see if that's easier or harder to get into the meeting. For new people, it's hopefully easier. For established people, once you had made it into the meeting the first time, you were on our list. So it was actually pretty easy after that point. And Mark, I'm getting a little bit of echo from you.
Okay, I'll
So
turn
you
it down
wanna-
a little bit.
Yeah, just a smidge. Yeah, and so this AltSpace has spatial audio, unless you're using the microphone, then you get louder. If anybody else is echoing back at you, just let them know. We're super informal here. We like questions. I think he's well prepared. He's going to make us all look bad, but he's got a number of slides, so maybe he'll do a specific breaks for questions. But for the rest of it, jump in at any point, move around if you need to see better, or just let us know if something's going wrong. One of the new features in AltSpace that I'm excited, hopefully we won't need, but I'm excited if we do need it. In the past, once in a while, AltSpace would decide that this person's got network problems and we're going to put him into low bitrate voice mode, and we'd start sounding like a robot inside a tin can and then never recover from that. There's a new diagnostics menu that we can pull up. So if that happens to me, I'm hoping it doesn't, or anybody else, it's potentially a learning opportunity there. But especially if you can't hear a presenter well, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. So without further ado, we're going to move kind of into the plug section, and that's just telling you about new and upcoming stuff. And let me see if I can manage this. I'm going to do it actually without the microphone. Let's see if I drop this and do this. Okay, yeah, should be loud. So you're at this meeting right here, right behind me. I'm in VR, and HCI is a spin-off from the IGDA Twin Cities group. And so now that you've signed up for this Eventbrite, you'll get a note from them. We run 3 events a month currently. So if you see one for IGDA, International Game Developers in Twin Cities, don't hit unsubscribe. It causes us a lot of grief at Eventbrite. But just know that we only email you basically once a month per event. So it won't be a ton of stuff. And if you're interested in that, you can find our previous meetings on YouTube, and you can attend the other sessions as well. We've been virtual for about a year here, so someday, like people are saying before, I heard someday we'll be back in person.
Yep.
All right. So let me. So my particular pain point for today. Mark had dropped a hint about this earlier, but I didn't pick up on it. When you share content into AltSpace here, you can share a tab in the Edge browser, or you can share your desktop. And for him, desktop wasn't working. And my previous test, desktop was working. And even if it wasn't, I could share essentially the whole Edge browser. But today, it literally means one tab. So like click and open a new tab, that's not shared. So I was scrambling here real quick to try to cobble together my own web page full of the things I want to show. So bear with me here. Got an actual mouse. All right.
Always test
Maybe
it, right?
Oh, we did test it, and just not several times per day, not every day.
Continuously, yeah.
Yeah. So REM 5 is a great spot for doing all kinds of crazy VR stuff. Is anybody here from REM 5? Get it into the room.
Woo!
Yeah. Who are you?
I'm Brian. I just when I first made this account, I wanted to make my sweet hacker name instead, so
Yeah.
I just haven't changed it back.
Awesome. Yeah. So I just heard from Brian, and he said there was a bunch of events coming up. So I'm gonna see if I can actually click in AltSpace, because that's one of the things they let us do. Oh, can't scroll, but I can click. I'll just scroll on the PC. Which events did you want to cover?
Awesome. Yeah, no,
That's
well,
Matt.
thanks for letting me give a shout out. Also, Matt Foreman is with REM 5 here.
Oh,
What
Matt's
up,
here.
Matt?
Great.
Recently,
Yep.
recently brought onto the REM 5 team. But yeah, so
Make
we've
you
got
louder.
kinda... Oh,
You grab the
sweet.
mic.
There we go. Ooh.
Oh,
No,
you
I'm
drop
just too
it.
busy dropping the mic. Oh, sweet. How about
Oh,
now?
you're on PC, aren't you? Your hands aren't moving.
Can you-
Good luck. Oh,
Oh,
you
there
got
you
it.
go.
You got it.
How about now? Mic check.
Yep.
1 2 1 2. Sweet. Well, yeah. If you guys have been out to REM 5 before, we're just over in St. Louis Park. We've got 12 pods with HTC Vive Pros and Pro 2s where we do a lot of different types of entertainment and training and camps and a lot of fun stuff. But we're trying to get funky with a couple of events coming up that you all might be interested in. So this Saturday,
September?
we're doing an event called Hack the Planet. So that's from 7 to 10. Basically, if you've seen the movie Hackers, we're basically going to take all of that aesthetic and put it into our space. So I will probably be on rollerblades in a trench coat with a laptop from the 90s, probably with a blue screen of death on it. And we're going to have some live music and beer and food. And actually, my buddy John is going to bring a bunch of old Amigas and like computers that he's saved from the dumpsters. So there should be some really cool retro tech there as well.
Cool.
So that's this weekend. Also this Sunday, we've got a couple spots left. If you have friends or family that are neurodiverse, we're doing our first sensory-friendly family night kind of back in a while. So that's going to be Sunday at 3:30. And that's going to be kind of where we lower the lights, lower the music. We've got massage chairs for parents, and then we've got a lot of content that's curated for our friends on the spectrum. So a lot of Job Simulator and the Blue and a lot of other fun stuff that's been kind of really good for that audience. So that is this Sunday. And then next weekend, next Saturday, is Burn Night of Burning Man. If any of you guys checked out Altspace's last year or this year yet, it's really cool. It's super expansive, but basically we're going to do a hybrid event where we're going to have, of course, an event at our space, a lot of music, some more trippier VR experiences, and then we're going to put a bunch of our pods into the Altspace BlackRock experience, which should be a lot of fun. If you, like I said, if you haven't checked it out yet, I think it's open either starting this weekend or later this week, and it's really cool. There's a bunch of art in there and live concerts and stuff too. But we will be doing something at our space as well with like we will have fire spinners in our parking lot. So I don't know if any of you are burners or burn curious, but it's gonna be a pretty wild time. A big wall of sound and again some cool VR stuff. So yeah, we're just trying to get kind of funky, and we'd love to have anybody who wants to come over to our space to come check it out. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, through our social media or right here as well.
And let's talk about the event in 4 weeks here, the Startup Week one.
Yeah, so in kind of coming up end of September, we're going to have 3 in-person events at our space. One that's this XR happy hour with the VR AR new Minneapolis chapter. That one is Wednesday at 5 o'clock. That's going to be kind of just people from a lot of different backgrounds just looking to do a bit of a mingler, and we'll have hosted food and beverage at that, and it's free. I mean, if you want to register for Startup Week, that's great. We definitely appreciate that, and they appreciate that. But if you just show up and want to hang out, that's cool too. So. And then Thursday, it may only show one of them since we have 2 that event, but or 2 that day. But the Thursday after, so this is September 23rd, we've got an event in the morning, which is our education roundtable. So kind of how we're using VR for field trips and camps and as an education tool. That one's in the morning from 10 till noon. So if you are no teachers or are in education or just curious, definitely come swing over for that. And then that evening we're doing a second happy hour. Yeah, it kind of stacks on top of each other. But this is talking about how we're leveraging VR and XR technology for social justice. So this one will also be a hosted happy hour that is free, where we'll have some of our partners from Rooftop, where we've been doing cultural competency training and workshops with universities and corporations, and kind of just get to talk about a few of the different pieces of content that we're both using, and that Matt's actually helping us develop right now as well, a custom piece of software that I believe we'll probably be demoing at this event too. Don't mark my word for it, but yeah, we would love to get anyone from this group into that in the next couple of weeks here too, and we want to start looking for a next round of feedback basically.
Cool. Any questions for Brian quick? Great. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for letting me shout it out. I'm not sure where my microphone is, but I will attempt to let you steal it back.
Yeah, let's see if I can do that. Yeah, that works. Cool. Nice. The other thing you do is this. It'll reappear on the podium. That's one of the good features. Yeah, so that's a good segue. So I've been working with Nick on kind of pulling people together to spread the word about the new VR ARA Association. And I don't think Nick quite made it into the room, but we can talk about that a little bit in his... Oh, where are you? Oh, yep, default avatar, excellent. There, it just disappeared. This is for you then.
All right,
how do I grab it?
Grab that
I'm not sure. What was the trick, Brian, on PC?
I'm on the VR.
Oh yeah, use
just don't know if I can.
your grip instead of your index finger, maybe. Or maybe if I let go, you can grab it off the floor.
Hey, those REM 5 events were on the REM 5 website.
I'll tell you what, I got a control panel. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, they're on the website, and they should be on.
Let's see if I can find your name in here.
Well, like Facebook.
Or maybe you
There
can
you are.
hear me.
So, click. Okay, Nick, you're loud. You don't need to hold the
Oh,
mic.
there we go.
And now let me work on
Cool.
getting the browser to display.
Looks like we have
Just
an
let me
echo.
know when you
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Is that better? Okay.
Brian.
Well, yeah, thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm spinning up a Minneapolis chapter of the VRARA. Just want to tell you guys a few quick things about it. I joined back in about March, and I went to the Global Summit online, and it's a really cool organization. Probably about, I believe it's 35,000 professionals, and it really is global. I've got kind of regular interval calls set up with chapter presidents in Singapore, London, all over the U.S. There's a lot of great content there. They have a new European conference coming up that anybody can sign up for. So I would definitely ask you guys to check that out if you have some time. So the website is thevrara.com. And now with a Minneapolis chapter, part of what we're doing is we'll be doing quarterly events and then potentially growing it from there. We're partnering with organizations like REM 5 has been awesome in providing a space for us to try to pull the overall XR community together in the Twin Cities here for our first event during Twin Cities Startup Week. So we're really excited about that. We're looking at future events, particularly in a variety of different industry verticals that we've got here in town, and then want to get ideas from folks in the community for other ideas as well.
Yeah, and then people that are interested, you want to run through the slides and then maybe do questions at the end of the slides?
Yeah. So I'll just, is there any way for me to control it or no? I'll
Just shout at me and I'll click.
Yeah, I'll just go through a couple here. These are some of the basic things. They've got industry committees, which are great. They've got everything from education to military to fashion to retail. So it's a great place to network with folks via Slack channels in some of these events. Training and podcasts and webinars. They do supply a good amount of training content out there. So I think that's kind of another one of the big components there. But really, I think that one of the biggest values of becoming a VRARA member is really just connection with this community. I think it's going to be, an important piece of growing the local community to connect with others outside of this community. So some of the big places I've seen are actually Europe is doing a lot in the XR space. Vancouver is doing quite a bit in the XR space. And so I think it's learning from and connecting with those other individuals from not only all over the US here, but also across the globe. So these are some of the benefits of signing up to become a member. Part of it is also collaboration, with folks here in the Twin Cities. And so, the chapter is kind of ours to build and grow. And so anybody that's interested in participating in learning more, I would definitely have you check out the vrara.com. Otherwise, you can email me at Minneapolis at vrara.com. If you want to just go kind of click through a couple more of the slides here, we can just talk about some of the specifics. There's startups, there's companies, academic, and then individuals memberships, all of which have I believe the same number of again, networking, education, promotion. Also for companies is kind of another good opportunity. So if anybody is within a company and you become a member, you're able to kind of promote yourself through creating events and then using the general VRARA pipes to kind of market and get your stuff out there. We've got a lot of companies involved, a lot of big ones, a lot of the hardware companies, everything from hardware to software folks. One of the cool things about the conferences is that you get to kind of see the latest of what's going on in the industry, folks talking about what's happening, maybe in the arts realm in museums, or folks in the military with some of the AR and VR stuff. And so it's connecting with a lot of not only vendors, software vendors, and hardware vendors, but it's a bit of also being able to kind of peek behind the curtains and see what's coming down the pipe. And so promotion, knowledge, responsibility are kind of the value that they're bringing to the table. They also have research papers from universities, as well as each of the chapters will sometimes create their own research papers of what's happening. So that
Do we lose Nick? Might have lost his audio feed.
I think you're muted.
It's also not moving. That's a bad sign.
There we go.
You're back.
Oh, is he
You're
back?
back.
okay,
Hey,
I'm not sure what happened there. Sorry about that.
no problem.
So yeah, you can see a lot of chapters all around the globe and growing pretty regularly. So we've got now this one here in Minneapolis. I've connected with a bunch of folks in a number of places in Europe. London seems to be quite a hotspot for XR, and as I mentioned, Vancouver. So it's pretty cool to kind of connect in with this much broader global network to really tap into whether it's Slack channels or meeting people at these conferences. So some good opportunities there.
Yeah. Anything?
This is the team, just an example of some of the folks that are out there.
I'll just keep going. Tell me when to stop.
Yeah, yep. So the committees, I think, are a great opportunity for people to join in. I'm on an enterprise community, and the head of XR EPS is on there, and super interesting conversations come about how to incorporate XR into the overall business value of companies. There's VRARA women and some other groups inside of it that will again kind of connect and build network beyond our cities.
And I can't actually click through to the more details. What's the cadence of these events that the VRARA hosts themselves?
So weekly we get the event calendar. So there is generally, I'd say there's a number of events that are happening on a weekly basis. So you'd have a regular, if you wanted to probably go to several events a week online. And it's going to be across the board. Again, the committees all put on some sort of an event inside of an industry vertical. The events here in Minneapolis will start out quarterly, and then we'll see if there's any additional ways to grow kind of a more regular cadence there. But you do get emails about what the global events are happening on a regular basis, so that programming is pretty much constant.
Probably not us. Raises an interesting question. So everything's probably virtual at this point. When did that basically started last year?
Yeah, they have been having regular. I believe their global conference will happen at various parts around the world. So the European conference, I'm not sure if they're actually having some component of that in Europe anywhere specific. But I believe prior to COVID that they did have some sort of a larger, North American annual conference where people would actually go. But everything is definitely at this point all virtual in a variety of different spaces. And then again, chapter-wise, we're going to be having, these events, and especially starting off with this, first one for Twin Cities Startup Week. We want to try to bring community together, physically. There is a weekly podcast that they have as well. So there's some great guests that they have on there, industry folks, research folks. You can kind of find out about what's coming down the pipe with a lot of new technologies. So those are super interesting. If you wanted to get into any specific, verticals, whether it's retail, education, military, construction, that's part of what those committees are there to pull together for content. That's probably good for now, Zach. I think there's a bunch of slides in here, but like I said, check it out. It's no hard sales pitch for anybody to join in. We want to build a community here in Minneapolis, and I think one of the best ways to do that would be to connect us in a broader global presence with a community like VR ARA, and I'm super excited about it and think it's a really good opportunity for us. So definitely reach out, like I said, Minneapolis at thevrara.com for more info, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Nick Roseth, with Explore Design.
Yep. And the
Questions?
Any questions for Nick?
That's cool.
Yeah, and definitely if you're interested, contact Nick directly, or I can forward you to him. And then there's that event exactly 4 weeks away from now at REM 5 if you're feeling brave and you want to meet in person.
Yeah,
I think it's a good opportunity to have more casual discussions. And one of the questions I got earlier, Nick and I had a big conversation about trying to understand and kind of specialized things. VR and HCI has kind of always at its core been about developers and details, and not just technical developers but creatives and enthusiasts, and hasn't focused much at all on the business side of things. And I think that's the specialty of what Nick's working on, and we're definitely going to collaborate in a lot of things in the future. So
yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'd like to do is to try to connect more of that business and developer communities to collaborate on more projects, so create more opportunity.
Exactly. Okay, great. Well, let's move ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's do away your microphone. Let's see here. Again, everybody, you have no idea how seat of the pants this is right now. This segment. I'm just used to it because it's not every month, but it's a lot of months. Things change. One more thing I wanted to bring up. Well, first off, I'm plugging for a event related to Wall Ride, but is anybody here from Wall Ride, or is there anybody else that would like to just share something quick?
Jack, you're a little quiet.
Right, I'm a little quiet. I lost my megaphone. How's that?
Oh, that's so good.
So good. So, hey, what's this thing? This is another thing coming up in September. So this will be a little bit before the REM 5 event that we're all going to. Let's just scroll through this. So, got some cool art. I accidentally clicked. I apologize. This is hard to do in a VR headset. Oh, now what the hell is that? Facebook.
Is the REM 5 stuff available from their website? Is there a URL?
It is. Yeah. Yep. There's if you just type REM 5 calendar into Google, you'll get right to it, and it's exactly 4 weeks out.
Thanks.
So, yeah. How many people here just make noise or wave your hand around? Were able to show up for the. I guess it was 2 months back. We had an event hosted by Wallride in their WebEx space. Marty was there. Patrick was there. So they're a local VR developer, and they do a lot of games and a lot of cool stuff. And this is an example of some of the cool stuff. So just skip right to the. Where did it go? Let me see if I can find it. Oh, okay. It's on here somewhere. Wallride is getting a beer. Modest is making a Wallride beer, and it's going to debut at this event here in about 3 weeks. Ty has always been into skateboarding since forever, And so this is actually a charity event that's going to help fund a skate park for downtown Minneapolis. So that's kind of going to be the feel of it. There's going to be skateboarding demonstrations. There's going to be drum karaoke. So I don't know what that is, but it sounds better than singing karaoke. And interested in that. There is the date, September 18th. I think it'll be fun. It's another chance to get together in person for a little bit. And if you want to mark it on your calendar, I'll be there for that. I'll admit that's a tenuous connection to our VR event, but because it's Ty, I'll let it slide. Anybody else that wants to plug anything for the group before I move on? Okay. So now we're going to segue to Marc. He's got, like I said, his own slide deck, so I'm going to hand over the screen to you, hopefully. Take away my own megaphone.
All right, let's get this going here. Should be set. Oh, then I can't see anything. Okay.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
Yeah, there should be a little mirror here. And I've got myself on host tools there. I'll do that. How about that? Hey everyone. How's everyone doing? Yeah, can everyone see this okay? Does it look all right?
So Marc,
thumbs up.
They won't let me give you a megaphone. You have to give yourself a megaphone. Do you have a panel on the lower right?
I did already. I was just making sure. I think I'm set. Let me double check that. Yep.
And then I should hit broadcast on the big screen.
See, I should be good on that, right? I think I have my megaphone already.
I hear you.
Yeah.
You guys hear him? And I'm not seeing the content yet.
Yeah, I hear him.
Big screen.
Yeah.
It's actually harder than it looks, guys. It's really rough.
No. How about that?
Yep.
Just restarted it.
Bam. Bam, bam.
That good?
It's good.
Okay, we get all these panels out of the way. All right. Here we go. All right, everyone can hear me okay and see everything? All right, fantastic. Hey, I was going to talk about Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference and a few other things I kind of found interesting about that. So I've got quite a few slides. I'll go through this pretty quickly. And then at the end, maybe have a little discussion. Zach, keep me on track for time. Cool. So Apple has a lot of things going on right now. I just want to talk about the things I'm not going to talk about. So we won't talk about their privacy stuff in the spring, their Epic battle, or their privacy stuff going on right now. But boy, they've got a lot on their plate right now. One thing about WWDC, has anyone here ever attended it before? Just out of curiosity, probably not. It used to be a real gated event where basically, you have? Oh, nice. I didn't. You were just completely emotionless there. Okay. And so many people want to go, and so few people get to go that you basically have to subscribe to like a $1,500 ticket, and the odds of you getting it are really slim. But with COVID, it went virtual. I think with that happening, it's gone a little bit more mainstream. So it's actually a little bit more of a show from Apple and also the developer stuff. And Apple is really kind of famous for not broadcasting what they're doing overtly, but you can often see from the ingredients coming, like, the Secure Enclave, Touch ID, NFC that kind of came to the phone, meant that Apple Pay is the thing that they could do. So it's always kind of fun to look at the ingredients, and they always show us, all the new things for all the devices they have. And the iPhone's really kind of the center of everything right now. And one of the stats is about 70% of Apple's revenue is now iPhone and services related to the iPhone. So they really are an iPhone company. And there was a lot of new and a lot of expected stuff. So new versions of all the OSs. And there's some cool quality of life stuff, but nothing, totally revolutionary there. But I do want to talk about a couple things I found interesting, and then we'll spend most of the time talking about the new stuff in AR. So they're doing a lot of this physical and digital integration stuff. So last year they announced Car Key, which basically allows the phone to be the key to your car. BMW and a few other car companies are integrating it, and I think it's just like CarPlay or Android Auto. Eventually, every car will have that, and you won't need a key. You'll just use your phone. Cool things come with that too, where you can like give people guest passes with an app and stuff like that. And they're doing the same with IDs. Ultimately, it depends on how the government gets on board with that, but also home keys. So I think them setting standards and having enough devices around, they can kind of make markets happen there. But to get to this part of it, I think the most interesting thing is the augmented reality stuff they're doing with ARKit and some computer vision related stuff. And before, I think we're all kind of experts here, but just kind of a little level setting on this. And AR is basically, there's AR, there's VR, there's MR, there's all these terms out there. And AR is basically an experience where you see the whole real world, and it's augmented by a computer-generated layer. And some of the mobile stuff's really cool. This is just my kitchen, and this is an Instant Pot that's fake. It's an AR model, and the coffee pot behind it is real. And if I didn't tell you, I just think you wouldn't know. It's cool where we're kind of getting here. And I kind of like, obviously, a lot of us here can't wait for this future to happen, which is put on a pair of glasses and the whole world's augmented around you. And this is from Hulu's The First, and it's a pretty cool view of kind of ambient computing just as part of the story, but not the focus. So definitely kind of a cool series. I hope it doesn't look like this, but this is a short film called Hyperreality. It's kind of a dystopian view of what AR could look like, and it's definitely worth watching. It's really cool if you haven't. It's a few years old now. It's kind of the first film to kind of explore the darker sides of this stuff. So I look at AR and like at space where I work, we look at that as being the next big thing where we're going from, computers like PCs and Macs. We're now firmly in the mobile world and kind of the boring part of it where it's all happened, into glasses-based AR, and it's not a year off, but it's certainly not 10 years off, I would say. And all these companies are kind of going after this space. And my hot take is, I don't think too controversial, but I think these are the two that are most equipped to do it and clearly going after it. Zach, if you have anything to add to that. That kind of where my head's at.
Yeah, I'd say one thing to keep in mind is Apple's been building out this hardware with their secret agendas for years. So at the time they released ARKit, they're like, oh yeah, the last 3 years of phones can run it. And Google's like, 3 phones can run it. Right. And they've been playing catch up ever since.
Yeah, and we've talked about this at previous meetups, but since the iPhone 6S forward, they've had calibrated sensors and specific hardware to handle augmented reality. And then when ARKit came out, there were something like 40 million devices day one that could just run it, which is really cool. I kind of split AR into three types, kind of screen-based AR, mobile-based AR, and headset-based AR. And we'll focus mostly on mobile-based AR today. And this is all, again, a step towards the ultimate goal of AR headsets. And this started back in spring of 2017. And this is actually the launch video when Apple announced ARKit. This is Craig Federighi from Apple basically showing off ARKit, which is basically just placing a virtual object on the real, on a table in the real world. And yes, the table is kind of perfectly picked and all of that, but convincing. And they basically instantly made AR, mobile AR, a thing that could scale, and the devices were great. It worked surprisingly well in its simple scope. And we started kind of that summer getting busy working with Cambria, a company here in town that makes countertops, to basically allow people to see what AR, what Cambria's surfaces would look like in their home. And AR was a really good way to do that. And finally, it was mature enough, and there are enough devices out there. And like Zach said, there were some interesting AR specialty phones out there, but no one had them except weird AR people like all of us, right? It was just nothing you could actually do at scale. And one thing to keep in mind too is the mobile AR landscape, I think, is pretty complex. There are native apps, we're all familiar with those phone apps that you download to your iOS or Android phone. There are native AR files like USDZ .reality and GLB files that your phones increasingly can understand. So in the Apple ecosystem, a USDZ file is basically a USD file, which is a Pixar format, zipped up and compressed, that you can basically text back and forth just like you would a JPEG or a GIF or a movie or something like that, and your phone kind of knows what to do with it. So they're getting more native there. And then we have the social platform AR, so specifically designed for Snap and Facebook and Instagram. And depending on where your audience is, it really kind of, that's going to really influence kind of how you go after this. And one that's really interesting, and I don't have much to say about it here tonight, but as a mobile web AR, this is getting better where it just uses the browser and the sensors and the browser access to get to basically the power of your phone. And a company called Eighth Wall is doing some really pretty amazing engineering to get that to happen. And they sell basically a tool set that you can use, and they host it. And there's some pretty decent stuff there for sure. Year and a half ago, I wouldn't have given it a serious look, but now you can do some pretty neat things with it. And all that will obviously just get better with time. And with mobile AR, a lot of people I think don't see it as a real useful thing. But you can see what Google's doing, for instance. If you search for any of these animals and lots of other things, you can get an animated animal in real scale on any device that can handle it. And it's pretty neat, and it was pretty fun, to see people doing things like this. And that was Google learning and kind of educating the world too. And then they quickly went to, search for a vehicle or some other high dollar thing. There are now ad units that will give you 3D or AR cars like this, and even, competing cars. If you're searching for a specific vehicle, they'll show you AR and 3D models of others, and you can do things like change the color and look around and get a sense of what it is. So it's kind of quickly getting deployed, and we know this works. The company where I work at, we do a lot of marketing, and Shopify's official stat is that the right types of products with AR models you can preview basically lead to double the conversions. And I think the specific types of things are, the stroller is a great use. It's an expensive item. You want to see how big it is, or things like bikes or backpacks or luggage. You can put it next to your existing one, see how it compares. Yeah, that's the size I want. So there's some really cool use cases for this for sure, and we're doing a ton of this stuff. And then this is a project we did earlier this year. This was for our partners at Polaris, and they own 3 boat brands, Bennington, Godfrey, and Hurricane, and we basically created a virtual boat show. All the boat shows were closed down. None of them can happen in reality. So across those 3 brands, we created 39 3D models of the boats, your engine size from like 3 megabytes up to about 10, I think, at the max, and then created this 3D experience with them. And then part of it was, we're creating this model, we can do all kinds of things with it. You can tap and view this in real world in your space. So you want to probably be in a large space like your driveway or somewhere outside, then you can put yourself in the cockpit and just see what it would look like at real scale.
So people would hold up their iPad or iPhone and walk through the boat and get a sense of the size.
Exactly, or walk around it for some of the larger ones, for sure. And we kind of put them elevated up just a little bit, so depending on your height, it can be a thing that you can get into, but you can definitely get into the cockpit and that sort of thing. Yep. And then once you have the 3D models, you can do all kinds of things with them. These are just some renders we did in Blender with like nice skyboxes and lighting and stuff like that. But basically mobile AR fidelity. And again, just to reiterate, the mobile AR we see today is basically leading to the glasses AR of tomorrow. So not the end game, but a step along the way, but useful. So here's what happened here at WWDC is even their invites alluded to this, and a lot of people read into it thinking maybe they'd be announcing hardware, eyeglasses or a headset or something. And I definitely didn't feel like that was the case, but it's no accident that everybody, all of their emojis on the invites were wearing glasses. So it's clearly the world reflected in the glasses is, I think, a nod at the future for sure. And then the keynote with Tim Cook. I'll hit play here, and there's no audio. There's audio.
Good morning, and welcome to WWDC. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces with us today.
Could everyone hear that? You could see it at least, right? And interesting that they, without a real audience there, what would that look like? And, just like I'm looking out at this audience, there's a whole bunch of us here that may look like ourselves in reality, may not. But it's, I think, a nod to a future of more of those types of things. And there's a lot of smoke in the rumor mill here, but basically Apple has been building software and hardware and buying companies. And it sounds like the first product they will release, if the rumors are true, is basically a headset that does VR and also pass-through AR. And then that would be followed by a dedicated AR headset going forward. And Apple's got some really interesting tech that they already own. They're also buying companies. This one, for instance, they invested almost $500 million in a company that makes laser LiDAR sensors. And the new iPad Pros and the new iPhone 12 Pros have LiDAR sensors, which make AR navigation and world finding and understanding the world around you much, much better. And Zach had kind of alluded to this, but basically they continue to kind of buy and build the software and hardware needed. So think about the things you need for this. Where am I in the world and what am I looking at? An understanding of what I'm seeing. Is that a person? Is it a few people? What are they doing? The ability to render a realistic virtual layer on top of the real world. They've done a really good job with that. And then the lower right here, you can see basically, we're not going to be carrying keyboards around with us. So the input is going to be voice, gesture, virtual keyboards, and they're also adding all kinds of APIs that really only make sense if you think of having, wearing glasses and then having your hands out in front of you doing something. It doesn't make much sense to hold a phone and then hold your hand in front of your phone. So you can kind of see into the future there a little bit. So all the things required to do this have been improved, and they've added a lot of new things too, and I'll kind of go through this. And this is a little history of basically ARKit from version 1.0 in 2017 all the way to version 5 right now. And you can see the first few years, up through, say, last year were really all these new things. And what's happened this year is they've really just kind of taken what they have and expanded it. So expanded location anchors. So if I'm in the real world, I can understand this is an actual building I can go to, and I know that's a landmark. Expanded face tracking to handle multiple people. I'll go through that a little bit. And then Reality Kit 2, which is basically an app and kind of framework, has something called object capture, which I'll go through, which is really cool. And then better shaders and rendering. There's quite a bit more, but those are kind of the big ones. So how many people here, just out of curiosity, have tried object capture? I'll raise my hand for sure. It's basically an existing tool called photogrammetry that Apple has kind of officially, all right, we got a few, that Apple's kind of officially created and put into Mac OS natively. So this is their video, but basically what you do is you take a sequence of photos of an object from all kinds of different directions, and an algorithm basically stitches them together into a 3D model. And this stuff it was amazing the first time I saw it, and it's still amazing today how well this works. And there are definitely some caveats and types of things it works well with and doesn't. But this is a good example of, you take anywhere between, say, 25 and 100-ish photos, and the more the better. And then there's a Mac Monterey app that if you were a developer and you're running the beta, you can basically run these images through and say, here's a folder of images, make the 3D model out of this. And if you did it right, you'll end up with a 3D model. And this is actually not a very good example. This is an Xbox Pro controller. And this is kind of shiny and not a lot of texture detail to it. So this one actually doesn't work very well, so that's obviously a real photo of that. But I do have some examples. And one thing I'll say is that it requires, currently, to use Apple's official tools, it requires Mac OS Monterey, which is in beta right now, not yet released. And what you do is you download the source code, you compile it with Xcode, and you get a command line app that you basically say, here's a folder of images, process these, and you can pass in a few flags too. And then it's actually best if you use it with an iPhone 12 Pro or an iPad Pro that will do depth with images. So if you have one of those phones, it will use the LiDAR sensor to determine depth, and it will automatically apply real-world scale to it. And that's worked really well in practice from my experience.
Is this lack of deployment because they want someone else to handle it?
Yeah, so basically they're basically giving you the framework, and then they're not going to release official slick tools. It sounds like they're going to let other people do things, and it's already kind of happened in a really cool way. Yep, exactly. And I've got a couple examples I can go through. And this guy is from, I believe he's from Sketchfab, and his test photogrammetry thing is a pineapple, as you can see, and it looks really amazing. So this is the USDZ model. You can just download it from a link he's got, and it's on Sketchfab too. And you can see some of the detail he got in there, and you can flip things over and you'll get the bottoms of those. I've had a little mixed luck with that, but really good detailed model. You look at this is, a rendered up version of it. This is what the geometry looks like. It's pretty dense, and you can basically choose the demo app that they've given you, kind of low, medium, or high, levels of kind of detail. So higher detail, higher density, or lower detail, lower density. But what you get out of it is up to 8K textures. So this model specifically, it's these 4 textures in 8K. So diffuse or color, normal map, roughness, and ambient occlusion. So pretty amazing to be able to get that out of an app running like that. And Zach, you've done a bunch of photogrammetry in the past too. So yeah.
What's the question?
What's the model format? What are they calling it? Or what did they do?
So what this does by default is it generates USDZ files. So that's kind of an Apple specific format. But since they give you all the source code, there are other apps that run and do this now for you, and it's any format. There's an app I really like. I'll go through an example of it called Polycam, and it can spit out point clouds, OBJs, GLBs, USDZ, kind of any file format you'd like, STLs even.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super slick. Another example, these are just some of the early examples I picked. This was a presentation I I gave it our company to give an overview kind of the day after it happened. And then Apple has some up. If you search for Apple's AR Quick Look Gallery, we've always had some really good examples of this. And if you go to this webpage on an iPhone or an iPad Pro, you can view all of these models in 3D and AR. So if you have an iPhone, I would definitely check it out. And you can just search for Apple Quick Look Gallery, and it'll come right up. I'll go through a few of these. Sketchfab has a bunch. If you search for object capture or hashtag object capture, there's a whole gallery of things people have scanned, and you can kind of get a sense of what works well and what doesn't. So here's one I did. I bought a new pair of mountaineering boots, and yellow. They come in any color you want as long as it's yellow. So not my favorite color, but these have a lot of good texture to them and a lot of detail, and they're matte. They're not real shiny, so they're a good candidate for this. So I took 99 source images, about 118 megabytes total is what I uploaded, and this is the result I got. So this is just me viewing this model here.
You said that's a single 4K texture and normal and occlusion map?
This is, I've actually got those maps here. So it's amazing the detail that I got into it. So this one on highest detail level generated 55,000 triangles, and then a 4K map for diffuse, ambient occlusion, and normal for this model.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's insane. It fails on some things for sure, but here's an example of kind of the density of what the mesh looks like, and then what the actual texture files themselves look like.
Have you decimated this model down to make it more mobile friendly?
This is on iOS has no problem doing this, so this is totally mobile friendly for Apple. If you do, it is pretty easy to decimate them down. You know, something like this, it's a pretty regular mesh, so you can probably cut it in half without even noticing it. But I kind of wanted to start at the high end and then kind of go down. And then this is what the texture looks like too. I would love to see the algorithm that generated this for sure. And one thing I noticed is when I did this, the texture was too dark, so I just went in, took this file, did a little image processing on it, changed it, and just looked perfect. Yellow was just a little bit muted. Was there a question over there?
Yeah, how long does it take to render like 100 images?
So what you do is you run it on a Mac. So you run on a Mac running, and Macs aren't the best as far as GPUs and things go. So something like this is on the order of 5 to 8 minutes. It's not super long. So,
really
and the app that I'm gonna recommend, there's a really good way to do this, is one called Polycam, and this is an example of. Can you guess which one's real and which one's fake? So I didn't do any size adjustment or anything. These are just the real size of them.
I'm gonna go with the one without a reflection is fake.
Right now, the one on the right is fake.
Yeah. It's not the model, it's the fact it doesn't have a reflection on your shiny table.
Right. Yep, exactly. Yep, that's the clue. And if you notice, I'm going to let this loop again. If you look at how it knows that the real shoe is in front of it, it clips that out really nicely. Watch this here. You'll see the real shoe here occlude the virtual one, and it does it surprisingly well. Right here, you can see it. And then when you go around to the side, you'll see the other reverse happen there. Do you notice that?
Yeah, it does a pretty good job.
Yeah, so, and I think the big thing here is that, and I know, Zach, you've done, and a lot of people in here have done photogrammetry. Like, photogrammetry isn't new, but what is really cool is you don't have to be a photogrammetry expert now to build an app with these really simple tools Apple's given you. So if you're any kind of a developer, you can just say, here's a bunch of images, here's the parameters I want to set, go, and you can design a really cool experience around that. And there are a few, so what we're going to see, just like we saw with LiDAR, is a whole bunch of apps come up that have their unique spin on it, or their tweaks in the input parameters, or maybe they optimize it in a specific way. We'll see a lot of that, and in fact, we already are. There's a site called PhotoCatch, which will do this for you. It's just an app you download and run it, and it kind of did the hard work for you. So if you're not a developer, this is a cool one. This works pretty well. And then this app is Polycam, and I just recorded, took one of my old too many video games I have at my house, and just took this old Mattel basketball from the 70s that I really like. And this is how I did it. I just did it in an area with diffuse light. white background, and then you can see I'm staying still and I'm spinning the model around. The other thing you do is you can kind of move around the model. And the app and UI for this is really great. I turned on something called object masking, which will try to take small objects and clip them out. And then when you upload it, I ended up getting this back. So this one didn't work well, and I want to kind of talk about that. But the plastic itself is shiny, and even though it doesn't look real shiny, it's enough to kind of confuse it and for it not to understand where the back was and parts of the corners were clipped out. So it really does benefit you to have flat matte models for it to work best. And even things like a shiny screen on a phone would totally screw up that part of it, and you just don't know what you're going to get. So I was asking Zach what kind of things I should do, and he's like, rusty tools and things like that. So there's definitely some things we need to get better at, right? Food seems to work really well, shoes, things like that with a lot of texture.
Is there anything that exists that'll take a video and extract frames from it in photogrammetry?
Yeah, in fact, this other app that I mentioned, that you can upload a video and it will extract frames from it. I think it's better to do photos, and I think it's better to do it best with a camera that does support depth, which is basically most of these apps, the iPhone 12 Pro, because it will use that depth information to understand what's foreground, what's background, and how big things are in real world scale. For sure. But with all of these, you can use any camera you want. Okay, sorry.
I was just saying the problem with video is that you can get a little bit of motion blur when you're moving it around. A lot of things don't recommend using it. Like Meshroom is a free tool you can get, and it says please don't use video because you won't like your results. And that's basically because you need to get really still frames, and you'll get so much better resolution out of images anyway.
Right. Yeah. Yep, that's definitely true. But for some things, you can use video, and it does work pretty well. But you're absolutely right there. And you can use a really nice DSLR camera. And the one thing they also recommend is that if you're using an app like this, they're going to kind of fix the exposure to be the same. But if you're just taking photos on your phone, you'll want to use exposure lock to kind of keep the exposure the same and let the lighting change as you move around it. Things like that.
Have you heard anything about development on objects that change? Maybe not a lot of movement, but they to do the same thing with say an object that blinks, like a controller or like a TV screen or something like that, where no matter what angle you're at, you could replay its animation, as it were.
Yeah, not exactly like this, but there are some LiDAR apps. I've got one on my phone. I can put the name, but it will basically do a point capture live in real time, and you can play that back. And it's not useful now, but it's kind of interesting to see because it can only see one point at any point from the point of view. It's cool to see though, for sure. And things like this, these aren't probably the ideal things to animate, but like the shoe could be animated to bend like someone's walking in, and that could be done after the model is created, for sure. And I kind of like to think this object capture stuff is kind of like LiDAR was last year, and that these are all apps that kind of do LiDAR, and I gave a talk about that kind of earlier in the year, and we're already starting to see, apps like that pop up. And I'd given a talk at the meetup, I think it was February, Zach, where I talked about this, and this was a LiDAR scan of my house that I got into in VR. So that was something, just downloading apps and using them. And this is also another one. Since then, I was in Mount Baker, Washington. I took a capture of base camp and was just able to kind of walk around it without carrying it all, and got this cool result out of it that kind of reminds me of the time we were there. Yeah, so I think kind of summarizing that, like understanding and capturing the world, is going to be a big part of the AR future. Anyone have any questions or thoughts on that kind of stuff? It's interesting how easy Apple did it. Like, it's not new, but they've just put a really slick wrapper on it, and I suspect we'll see a bunch of really easy to use apps come up increasingly.
Yeah, I got something to say. Last year at Oculus Connect, they talked about glasses and AR, about how like they might map the entire world. People wear the glasses. Do you think they'll have like an augmented world someday?
Oh yeah, in fact, one of the things that Facebook is working on, and Apple has and Google has, are things called spatial anchors or location anchors, where and in fact I've got a little bit about that on here. Absolutely. Feel free, Zach.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the glasses are very far away, ones we want. but the actual data, like Mark is showing, kind of exists for certain cities in certain parts of the world.
I just envision like Google Maps, but in VR or a big model.
Yeah, and in fact, Google has that information right now. So if you use Google Maps on your iPhone or Android phone, so if you're traveling to a new city, sometimes say you get out of a subway, back when we used to do things like that, and you have no idea where you are, and the map can be off by say half a block or something, and it doesn't know what direction you're in. There's a real world show me where I am view, and what it does is it opens the camera, looks at the buildings around you, analyzes them, and goes, oh, I know where you are. You're at this corner, and then it knows your exact location. And that's already happening. And that's happening effectively because they have a map of the entire world like that.
I'll have to try it. Thanks.
And that does work really, really well. And I've got a little bit on that too. I'll show you what that UI and kind of interface looks like. Should we keep going, Zach, here? That's kind of the big part of it, but I can go through it.
Just kind of zoom through it.
For sure. Okay. Reality Composer, this one's interesting. This is Apple's tool for creating interactive experiences with AR. So in this example, basically you can put objects down and then give them, say, you can animate them or have them react to taps or have them stick to different surfaces. And one of the cool examples, I'll play this, is this. I'll actually go full screen here. This is in front of my house, but basically it's Apple showing you how easy it is to use Apple Pay. And this is all just web AR, so it's basically using a .reality file. And what happens is they show you basically a train terminal, and they tell you to move your phone near it. So I'll just have it recorded on my phone. When you get near it, see it ding. Now what happens is a virtual train shows up in front of you, and you step inside of it. And I won't play the whole thing, but they basically model the train out. Once it takes off, skybox kind of appears around you. You go by some tunnels, and then you're magically going through things. Yeah, New York there. Keep going through here. Apple Vision Framework. I think the biggest thing here to say is that just native to the OS, you're able to basically take photos of things and grab text and content out of them, just like you were copying and pasting text out of a text document. This works really slick and is something I think will just increasingly be a thing that we expect. Apple Siri is going to be on device, so doing a lot of, again, if you are asking, a set of AR glasses to do something, you want that to happen quickly, so that's an ingredient they're working on. There's now basically person segmentation, so Apple can tell you where in the scene a person is, and you can see things like virtual green screens, but also like telling me where people are, and if I'm talking to somebody, letting me react to them in a specific way. You can choose between kind of fast and accurate, you can choose between kind of accuracy and speed and how dense that is, and do things like this and either get rid of people or change the background on them. A lot more in this about human body pose detection. So again, not only seeing are there people there, but what are they doing? The interesting stuff for sure. And then the hand stuff, and this really only makes sense if you're going to be putting your hand in front of the phone, which is kind of weird. But with AR glasses, this makes all the sense in the world. Hand poses. Then mapping in location, back to what you're asking here, is we've made some pretty significant changes visually to how Apple Maps looks. And everyone, it's not as good as Google Maps in many ways, but I think the UI and visual presentation is really great. This is an example of what you were talking about. So you open your camera up in the map, and then it basically determines where you are based on what it sees those buildings as being, and it has those mapped basically and says to go to Davis Street, go that way. And that does work really well in Google Maps today. Apple's now added that. Apple now also has app clips, which basically are small little 10 megabyte or less apps that you can basically get to people, no login required to do something, and these now support AR, which is pretty cool. So the example they have here is scanning a phone and seeing a tile on your wall is, I think, a really cool idea. No app install needed. It just grabs it kind of automatically. No account. You don't need to make an account. And then if you do decide that you like the app, you can download the full app, but it's kind of a trailer for a movie essentially. And then kind of the last thing here is they've added the ability to do much more custom shaders. And I don't think this is like the most compelling example ever, but we were kind of limited by what we could do in AR before. Now they've just opened it up a bunch so you can do a lot more. So this basically makes any room look like an underwater scene. So yeah, to reiterate, basically Apple's just continuing to kind of build on all the elements needed for the kind of future of glasses-based AR, and they've definitely signaled that they're doing this, and Tim Cook has said he believes it's the next big thing. And then to kind of finish, I would say Facebook, if you don't understand the scale of this, Facebook has overtly said we are building AR glasses. The Quest has been an amazing device in many, many ways. And Facebook does have over 10,000 people actively working in their Reality Labs group, which still just blows my mind. So, yeah, 1 out of 5 people at Facebook are now working in this group, and that's amazing. And Microsoft and Snap, many more. Microsoft recently landed a huge contract with the military for HoloLens AR headsets. And Snap recently has their early glasses, again, not the kind of thing you'd use, half-hour battery life, clunky, small field of view, but they're putting them in the hands of kind of their favorite creators, letting them make things, and some of those things are really interesting. That's it. With the last part there.
Great. Any questions for Mark before we wrap up? Anything? Going?
Okay. All right. I will stop broadcasting here.
We knew we could reuse Mark's deck that he already had, but now that I have to talk after him, clearly he should have gone last. This is a terrible mistake. Follow him up. But RJ and I both just kind of have much more casual things. Kind of meant to spur a little bit of conversation. But yeah, thanks for doing that. That was always beautiful and amazing.
For sure.
How long did it take you to build that deck? Like how many hours did you put into something like that?
I did a bunch of this back for a company, kind of all company meeting, right when WWDC came out, and then I spent a couple hours last night or 2 nights ago editing it. So a lot of what I spend my time doing is making decks.
Is that like a day or of work or? Days?
Yeah, probably not quite that long, but something on that neighbor. Yeah. I've got a pretty good clipping things together. Yeah, and I like to put in movies and things so you can just kind of see it, Yep. Also, Keynote's amazing. It's way better than PowerPoint.
Is Zach, you're quiet again?
We're still on that page. Again?
You're quiet again.
All right.
Zach, you're quiet again, Zach?
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Actually, I'm going to make RJ loud. Are you still here, RJ? Uh-oh. Where's RJ?
Yep, I'm here.
Yep,
Hello?
just quiet. Yep, I hear you barely.
Yeah.
That's about to change.
While you're turning RJ up, I would say if you have an iPhone, you should definitely download the Polycam app, Polycam. I think it's free and it does all that, and it's just amazing. So you don't even need a fancy iPhone; just anyone will do.
Is that the one Niantic just acquired? Polycam?
Oh, I didn't hear that. Interesting.
It might have been the number 2 app. Yeah. There was one app that they acquired a few weeks ago, and it changed from subscription to totally free as that happened.
Oh, interesting.
I'll try to look it up here. Here, RJ, let me get you a link to show.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely
step to the front.
Yeah, I'll definitely second the Polycam recommendation. It's a really cool app, especially if you have one of those LiDAR iPhones. It's really nifty. Okay.
Let's do this. What's that? Oh, wait, you don't see it, do you? Hang on. How about now?
There we go.
Yep. So easy. Your mic still going?
Yep. Can you hear me all right?
Yep. Take it
okay,
away
yeah.
whenever you like.
All right. Great. Sorry, I'm on PC. This is a little weird. I tried using my Quest 1 because my Quest 2's microphone broke, but it kept crashing. So, all right. Okay, so I'm just here to talk really super quickly about the Vive Focus 3. For anyone who didn't hear about that headset when it came out a little bit ago this summer, basically it's the next iteration in HTC's mobile headset line. So it is a totally standalone headset akin to the Oculus Quest. It runs on Android. Uses the Vive Wave SDK for development, so you can use that with Unity or Unreal and make apps for it. And it's very, very similar to Quest as far as just kind of the power it has and what it can handle.
There's an extra
I'd say
in front of the price, though.
Yeah, exactly. The price is obviously a lot different. They claim that this $1,300 version is strictly their business enterprise headset. So this isn't what their vision is for a consumer version of what the Focus 3 might be. And they have talked about how that's something that they could possibly do, especially considering the success of the Focus 3. Which, for an enterprise business-only headset, it's weird to talk about it in terms of success. But from what I understand, they're completely back-ordered on it. And basically anyone who's trying to get one, even for business use, is having a hard time getting one because they can't keep them in stock. So even, employees try to, avoid taking up too many, internal versions just so they can send them out for developers and such. And my story with the Focus 3 was basically a few months ago when the Pico Neo 3 was starting to send out dev kits, and then after they announced the Focus 3, I basically heard from down the grapevine from a couple reps at both companies that they're basically looking for complete games from developers who had released things on App Lab, which just started this year for Quest. They basically wanted things that they could look at, that they could show as complete games that have been ported to their platforms too. So there's this card game prototype that I had barely even started, and I decided to finish that, put that up on App Lab, and basically kind of use that as a foot in the door, and any other games I was working on right now, I really just didn't have the ability to either finish that quickly or, just for other reasons I wasn't allowed to, put them forward as potential apps to port to these headsets. So I released a VR online card game called Conjure Cards. You feel free to look it up after if you want to. It's a really simple kind of 1v1 sort of card game in the style of Hearthstone, if you've ever played that one. And then I put that forward to my reps from both companies, and so they were nice enough to send me a dev kit of the HTC Focus 3 and the Pico Neo 3. But the Focus 3 is the one to talk about right now, just because it feels like a very premium headset, which is kind of a first, honestly, in the Focus line of headsets. For anyone who's had the quote-unquote pleasure of trying to use a Focus 1 or a Focus 2, they can tell you that HTC's previous attempts at standalone headsets have not gone great. So the fact that they even made this, even for the price it's at, I'm actually pretty impressed with them. The headset is extremely comfortable for me personally. One thing you probably saw scrolling through there in that website is that it has actually a detachable battery in the back of the headset. And so the first thing your mind goes to is, it's a hot swappable battery. You could keep playing forever. Well, it's, at least in this version, it is not a hot swappable battery that's in that back head pad there. I don't exactly know how the best way to point it out goes, but yeah, it's in the back. And it does act as a counterweight too, which is really nice and helps with the comfort level. Honestly, it's one of the most comfortable VR headsets I've ever used. When I was developing with it, I just let it sit on my head for hours, and I didn't really bother moving it much. I didn't feel the need to really take it off and set it on my desk in between builds and stuff. It felt nice up there. But yeah, it's not hot swappable yet. I've heard that's something that they kind of want to do possibly for a consumer version, but right now when you take that battery out, the headset powers off. That's its only power. So you could, put a new battery in and turn it on and, get the headset back up and running, but it's not going to be, a non-interrupted experience. They do offer PC streaming, kind of like the Quest with the Link cable and AirLink. The Focus 3 also has, a wired and wireless option. My personal experience with the wireless option was not great, but honestly, it's not super great with AirLink either. It's more usable with AirLink, but when I used it plugged in, it was very similar latency-wise to what I've had with the Oculus Link, which was very good. And honestly, if this headset were more consumer-friendly priced and had a little more popular of a platform, I could definitely see a lot of the YouTubers and a lot of the VR community considering this headset honestly one of the must-haves because it does standalone and PC VR decently well. One detractor from that, I would say, is controller tracking. It would be the latency on that is definitely not as good as like the Oculus or the Pico headsets. So it's not like lightning fast. You can play Beat Saber on Expert Plus. I'd say it's like slightly worse than the Quest 1 as far as latency goes, and then pretty similar to Quest 1.
Latency with a PC wired or wireless?
I had success using it wired. My attempts at using it wirelessly was pretty poor, but I have pretty bad internet conditions at home. I've heard from some people who have a really high-end router and they're sitting right next to it that they've gotten the wireless streaming to actually work pretty well, and they've been using that as like a wireless PC VR headset just because they like the comfort of the headset so much. That's primarily for anyone who's kind of in like the Twitter world or on Discord a lot. Shadowbrain, the developer of Climby, he's a big fan of Focus 3 and talks about it a lot, and his using it and developing for it. Right now, the platform, like I said, they really are considering it just a business headset right now. So there is a store with some apps on it. Contra Cards is a free game to play if you ever get a hold of one of these headsets somehow. But otherwise, a lot of the other headsets are selling their apps for like enterprise pricing. So like they expect somebody to use it in an arcade, or they expect somebody to use this headset with a lot of people. So the pricing is like $50 for a game that's usually like $10 on the Quest store because it's meant to come with an enterprise license. So it kind of stinks if you're just like hopping on there really quick to play with it and you're like, oh, I want to try that game on the Focus 3. It's like, well, you're gonna have to pay like 5 times the price, and that's not as fun to play around with. But to develop with, it's been a great headset so far. I've personally really liked how easy the newest version of the Wave SDK is. For anyone who's currently developing with Unity, if you're knee deep in the Unity XR stuff and you use all that for your input and your camera rigs and stuff like that, then you will not have to make any changes when you use the Wave SDK. Basically just drop a prefab into your character, your player rig, and then boom, you've got all the inputs, you've got all the tracking already working for the Focus 3. So it makes porting a game from Quest or even Pico, depending on how you use it, really a breeze, which I really appreciate, especially because if you tried to do anything between standalone headsets back when it was just the Pico Neo 1 and the Focus 1, and going between those and the Go or the Quest, and it was a huge pain just trying to manage like inputs and different settings on all those. So it's nice that all those headsets are finally kind of coming together under the umbrella in Unity, and just making it easier for developers to kind of hop to wherever the hot new thing is. So it's
How about performance?
overall just really expensive headset, but really nice headset. So their rumored plans for a consumer version, I hope, come to fruition, because I think it would end up being pretty popular in the consumer market if they can pull it off and get more people on the platform.
What about performance relative to Quest 2?
I'd say it's about the same. I had on my Pico Neo 3, my card game runs a little bit lower than 72 frames a second, so it is pushing it a little bit on something like the Quest 1 or the Neo 3. But on Focus 3 and Quest 2, it eats it up like butter. It doesn't churn at all. So I'd say it's, at least better than the Quest 1. I'm sorry, I'm not really a great guy that writes down metrics and stuff like that. But just anecdotally, I would say the performance is very similar to Quest 2. I didn't, send anything really hardcore at it to test it out, but just based on my experience with the one game that I'm currently porting, I'd say very similar.
And I'd ask RJ to talk at this one, 'cause I knew we'd have a few more business folks or business developer folks. So any random questions about batteries or cables or resolution, or you got any of that, far away? I think the one thing that is the hardest with Quest, and even with the Quest Oculus for Business, is the setup. What's the setup like to get a focus and then deploy software on it?
And the MDM.
Oh yeah, no, they at least for Focus 3, they really kind of hold your hand through it. So they'll have a representative that'll email you as soon as you start really talking to them about developing for Focus 3, and they'll walk you through setting up an enterprise account through their website, just like you set up a regular developer account through their website. And as soon as they like whitelist you, then you can immediately start pushing stuff to their enterprise store. And I know you can distribute apps privately through that similar method.
Can you run it in like a permanent kiosk mode?
Yes, that's in the. I know that's in the developer settings. I haven't messed with it personally, but I have seen that in there, and I know they've had that since the Focus 2. So I know that's something that they've always been sure to keep in there.
I'm curious.
So this is kind of on that note, but it's kind of interesting and tangentially related. But on the Pico, their kiosk mode is actually that you just install a dummy app that has the same app ID as the Pico menu. So then
That's
when
funny.
it starts up, it loads your app instead of the menu. And so you build an app that does nothing but load your other app. And then that's
Funny.
so it makes it really hard to get out of kiosk mode once you're in there, because you have to actually get into the headset and be into it and uninstall.
That's hilarious.
So it's better than that, and that's a win.
It's funny.
I hope it is.
I had two more questions. I was curious, how are the lenses?
One thing, Zach, on the. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, the lenses. I would definitely say that was. I'll have to mark that as another negative besides the price. The lenses are probably as bad as the like the Generation 1 Vive and like the original Vive Focus. It is a really nice display, and the lenses take away from that. Although I've been told that as part of the prototype and developer kits, that they had worse lenses than what the actual enterprise retail version shipped out with. So there could be a little bit of a difference there. The ones that actually are in the enterprise quote-unquote retail kits that you can get that actually come with like the box and stuff, those might have better lenses, because I was told that there's a difference between those.
Okay, how about
Mark,
the
you had
cameras?
something?
Can they do like AR?
Oh, on the
Is it
business
black and
front,
white?
one thing. I think he's asking a question there.
Oh yeah, I was curious with the cameras. Does it do AR well, or does it do black and white?
Yeah, it has a black and white pass-through that I'd say looks just like the Quest pass-through does, honestly.
Okay.
I didn't explore any of the API involving that too much. I'm not sure if there is. Honestly, if there is, it's not something that they're really pushing for developers. And I know they've got like 1 or 2 more headsets because, it's HTC. They just love pushing out like 5 or 6 of them a year. And I think 1 or 2 of those new headsets, like in the next like 6 months, has a similar plan to it of focusing on the pass-through with a little bit of mixed reality input. But I really can't speak more to that because, it's HTC. There could be 3 more headsets between now and then.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Good, Mark.
Well, on the business front, one thing I was going to say is managing like mobile device management on the Quest, it's its own specific thing. And with this, it sounds like any of the Android mobile device managers will just work with this. And that's a huge thing for companies that already kind of do that at scale.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts or questions about porting or anything else for RJ? Awesome. Thanks.
Good stuff.
And I've just got a couple kind of quick things as well. I was going to just a couple of things that I'm personally excited about, and just wanted to share them with the group and see how many people I can get worked up. Oh damn! There's something. Was this louder? Better? Louder?
That's better.
Okay. Let's see. Make some noise if you've heard of the Lynx headset. I did show it briefly here a couple months back. It's AR first. That's your headset.
It's the Atari.
It's the Atari Lynx.
Yes, it
Coming
is.
back.
The only Lynx
Let me grab my mouse here.
The true Lynx.
So, I've been following this for a while, following the researcher that's kind of heading it up. I can kind of maneuver myself here and make controllers awake. This is an AR first headset, but from the very beginning, it was designed for pass-through. So if you think of HoloLens or Magic Leap or any of the other kind of established AR headsets, they're clear, they're see-through displays, and they're very, very expensive. They don't take advantage of the kind of lower costs that the Oculus Quest has because of all the hardware we have for mobile phones now. So the Lynx takes a different approach. It's essentially a hardware-wise, it's a VR headset, but it's designed to do AR. So when you see my cursor here, it's very thin, but it does have just regular screens in there, and it has some really crazy lenses in front of it. Experience, this is the thing I showed a couple months back, will be something like this. So you are looking at a screen in that solid black headset, but the movement and more or less the colors match up with the real world that you're seeing outside of that screen. And this was filmed by just setting a GoPro in front of the headset and carrying it around. So it's not super amazing trickery. They're a very small team in France. So by doing this, they bypass the super high costs that it takes literally bleeding edge tech to manufacture a HoloLens or a HoloLens 2. And when you get those clear displays on a HoloLens or Magic Leap, you gain the ability to safely move around the real world. You're getting very good display of the real world and sacrificing virtual image quality. And I worked for a long time on a HoloLens 1 and just got just a tiny taste of HoloLens 2. But Ryan gets to work on HoloLens 2. How's the display, Ryan? Oh, he's muted. Maybe sleeping.
I don't like it very much. I think it's a step back. It only works if it's bright. Otherwise, it's like kind of muddied, like a gasoline reflection or something. The colors are off if you turn the brightness down. So it's either like a flashlight in your face or weird color gradients and things that sort of float and trick you. That's my impression of it anyway. I actually thought
really
that we had
inconsistent too.
Yeah, I thought we had 2 faulty units, and we started going through this whole thing. When we finally got them, we were all excited, and then I'm like, the screens just suck. They just suck. And it took, a couple phone calls, and then they're like, have you turned the brightness up? And I'm like, why would I need to do that? And they're like, well, it doesn't work unless you turn the brightness up. So, yeah, you got to be max brightness, which I don't like that much. I'm a little disappointed in them, to be honest. The 2 HoloLens 2.
If it is at max brightness, do they work okay outside?
I mean, they have that same problem as the other ones being outside, that can get washed out relatively easy with sunlight, of course.
Is the max brightness noticeably better than HoloLens 1 or about the same?
So I wear glasses, and even when I was wearing my contacts, you just see extra reflections of images. Like it's shadowed a little bit. If you're not paying attention, it's not so bad, but every once in a while you'll like if you get real close to a mirror, you see a double reflection a little bit if you pay attention. It's like that. I don't know. Like I said, a little bit disappointed. It's one of those things you got to kind of experience, and because the device is pretty neat, putting stuff in there it works, does the good capture of the room. But the screen quality, I think, is a little bit of a step back personally in the HoloLens 1.
That's kind of the consensus that I've seen everywhere. They went with a radically different design. They're actually shooting lasers against moving mirrors into a waveguide, and it seems like it was done for peak brightness. It seems like it was done possibly for Army contracts. It will be outdoors. And then that crazy display, that light engine, came with a lot of drawbacks. Kind of saying brightness control. I've heard interlacing problems. Have you noticed that? You turn your head.
Yes, it's very weird. There's some very weird feelings you get when you're wearing the thing that's wasn't apparent before. One of the ones that bugs me the most is just the way the thing goes around your face. I mean, the flipping up is really nice, but it's got this like little piece of glass on the side that's angled, and it catches a reflection like behind you, like spyglasses almost, but not useful. So you catch, whenever you look, you catch this weird motion out of the side that seems unnatural because of that reflection. I mean, that's a design thing, but nothing to do with the lights, but just the plastic itself kind of gives double images and stuff. To be honest, I didn't take it outside much. It was like one time, and that was overcast. So
yeah, and then the big one that you learn very, very quickly as soon as you throw some content in there is when you have a clear display, it's really hard to show black because you can't show black. Whatever is the background that is behind you, well, in front of your glasses, if this white projection screen was where I was looking, then that would be the darkest thing I could see. You can't make it darker. It's not a thing. Just like if you walk into a theater and the lights are still on, that's as black as anything's going to get. There's some fun tricks there, as in if you want to green screen a person, you don't have to anymore. You just record them in front of black and then just display the whole video. The black won't appear. That's because you can't afford to actually have a nice stage with a green screen. But other than that, it's actually not a nice feature. So those are kind of the main things. The other one to think about too is when we do AR pass-through in a VR headset, it's a VR headset first. It's not been optimized to do that. And I'll show some examples from Quest here in a second. This is super skinny. This is much skinnier than a Quest. And one of the main reasons they did that is what's called the eye stalk effect. If you picture me as a snail, I'm a snail. These are my eyes. They're way out here sticking out of my face. If I turn my body, those are going to move a lot faster than where my eye sockets are in my human head. That's an exaggeration of what happens on the Quest 2. The cameras are way out in front of your real eyes. They move way too fast. You don't have the same field of view as your eyeballs because they're in the wrong position. And it just kind of goes from there. So this was designed from the ground up to be skinny. And it has some really crazy lenses to accomplish that. And this was kind of just this neat academic thing. It's going to be very expensive until they announced recently that they actually just pulled out the eye tracking, and we're going to try to compete at roughly a consumer pricing level. If you watch some of these videos, teams from France, they're very not marketing people. They're engineers. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it won't come back to bite them. But he said a few $100s. And he's also said, well, I can't, subsidize my price like the Quest and sell your data and give you discounted hardware, but it will be very much at the cost level. And then we hope to sell apps, and have an app store. So they're about to announce their price. It was just given a date of September 9th. And my guess, based on those two statements that he's made, be $400 or $500, and they'll be doing a Kickstarter. And the other interesting clip, you can kind of get more details on their website. There's a lot of stuff out there, but this is a slightly newer one. This is just exactly what's displayed on the screen in an outdoor environment. So what's nice to see, obviously, is color compared to the Quest, and the fact that it can kind of blend and do a reasonable job of exposure levels. You see that the white plastic tables are a little bit bright, but it's not freaking out. And how many people have messed with the pass-through on the Quest? Anybody? It's just me that walks around outdoors with a VR headset. The exposure levels are just bananas, just absolutely out of control, because it wasn't designed to be pass-through. It was designed to track your head position and nothing more. And they've just been adding all this software on top of it, which is amazing and incredible value. But the hardware is just not there to to get the job done. So that's kind of something to watch out for. I'll definitely be talking about it. And that's probably enough of that for now. We can circle back at it later. On my mouse here. So that's coming up on the 9th. And I also wanted to briefly talk about Oculus Pass-Through SDK. See if that goes. Is it going? There it goes. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Lynx has the latest version of the leap motion hand tracking, or the.
Oh yeah, great point. Yeah, so because they started as this top shelf best of breed AR headset, they also started with Ultra Leap hardware. So Leap Motion to us plebes that can't afford Ultra Leap hardware, it has dedicated cameras still, infrared cameras at a high frame rate, tracking hands. How many people have done Leap Motion in a VR headset back in maybe the Oculus DK1, DK2 days? So it was so good that one of my sons, it's still his favorite VR demo of all time, even after all these years, because this was like 2014 or 2015 when it got really good. It is fast and accurate, and it feels like they're your hands. If you've done hand tracking on Quest, it's looks like hands, and it sometimes follows the motion of your hands. And sometimes when you click and drag something, like something terrible happens that's not a click or a drag. So it's kind of the opposite of that. So it's destined to have really good hand input, kind of the best of breed hardware and software, much better than the Quest. And they are going to have some controllers. That part is kind of up in the air because that wasn't part of the original plan, but when they do the Kickstarter here early September, they're going to kind of show all the data there, and they're also being really good about letting streamers and journalists try the hardware themselves and say their real opinions. So definitely one to watch. I don't see anything on the screen. What do you guys see? I see white
screen.
Great.
Hopefully also their licensing for the Magic, or for the Ultra Leap hand tracking SDK is not garbage like the normal one is.
Yeah, that I think they wouldn't make it far if they went with the Ultra Leap licensing.
Yep.
That they have. Well. All right, I'm not going to try to troubleshoot that. Let's try the next link and see how that goes.
You could try stopping and starting the stream, Zach. That seems to help.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me do this. I'll just do the browser back and forward thing first. That's a little easier.
There you go. Now it's back.
It renders and then it disappears. I saw it for a second.
Yeah.
It's even acting goofy on my PC.
It was there for like a second, and then there was like a progress bar, and then it went white.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll skip it. With the OS 31 of the Quest, there was also an SDK 31 that gave the very first access for developers to do pass-through APIs. Anybody played with the pass-through stuff? It's kind of brand new, depending on how recently your Quest updated. I'll just show. I can't show the overview, but I'll show. There's a great example of it. So this is an existing game, Mark Schramm. And I think it's a good example. So you're basically building this kind of crazy gadget. And now, game-wise, it's not that you need to get your room involved, but you'd feel a lot more confident moving around a bigger space without tripping over things and punching things. And he's actually added something in here that he shared with a streamer where you can essentially you can build colliders for parts of your furniture. So if you can imagine walking to your chair and drawing a cube around it, and then having these balls roll down the chair or the footrest or footstool, having them bounce off of there. It's not clear how this stuff will roll out to consumers. This first release is the least accessible of all time for any consumer ever. So like other development stuff, you have to put your Quest in development mode. There's also a new change to the manifest so that they can block these apps from being on App Lab for the moment. And not only that, every time you reboot the headset, you have to issue an ADB command to put it back into experimental mode, so the app will not use the pass-through functionality. So within a week of that happening, SideQuest jumped all over that. And if you want to check out this stuff, use SideQuest. They added a command to their program to turn on experimental mode. There's like 2 or 3 games in there already that do this kind of thing. Let me just show you one other one that I was impressed with. And actually, this is right off of SideQuest, I think. This looks like it's a Reddit link to SideQuest. Oops. This is another existing game, but he put a free version onto SideQuest. So in this one, really the gameplay is not changing at all. It's pretty gratuitous use of pass-through, but I think when you're swinging your arms around, you might want to know if you're near your TV or if you're near, a nice curtain or something that's not going to explode in an expensive way when you get too excited. So just having those environmental cues, I think, could help you out. One of the interesting things is if you've used the pass-through for setting up a Guardian, or if you just turned it around and walked around, the depth information isn't right, because again, on the Quest, the camera's not anywhere near where your eyes should be. Let me see if I got that last sample here. Shoot. Give me 1 second. So the one I'm trying to pull up, Cubism, that's the one.
Cool game for sure. They have 120 hertz mode too.
Yeah. There you go. Make that big. Is it playing? Good. Let me try that again. No, not quite the right tweet. This is the tweet promoting the tweet. There it is. Are you guys seeing anything happen? No, you're not. Because I moved to a different tab.
Just the still image.
Yeah. That's one of the things that changed for this alt space sharing is you had the choice between share a tab and share your desktop. And it used to be that sharing a tab was kind of more like sharing a browser. Now it's literally that one tab and not. So if you follow a link, it opens in a new tab, you're out of luck. You can't share that. You got to paste. There we go. This little squirrely guy. So kind of at first glance, this looks like exactly the same thing. You're doing a VR thing, and there's your real world in the background. But kind of based on my early experiments, I'll be kind of brutal here and say I think this is quite a bit worse. And for the simple reason that the controllers are very close to your face. When things are full arm length, 3 feet away, the scale is basically right. And so that means if you extend your arms all the way forward, things are about the right depth and the right size. If your hands are down by your lap keyboard, about the right depth and the right size. And you see how he grabs these puzzle pieces and pulls them close to his face and assembles them. If you actually try that in a Quest headset, the depth information is super wrong. It doesn't match where your hand is in real life. And if I'm lucky on my pausing here, I can probably grab a frame. We'll just wait for you can kind of see how it's swimming and changing shape. That's actually depth changes that are happening when you're looking at it with your eyes. So when you're at this kind of a distance, the controllers are like double the size they should be. And yeah, it's rough. I think that'll be one of the big design principles on the Quest, is just that it's great for things that are far away to use pass-through. It's great for limited amounts of time. And if you actually just turn it on and walk around your house, walk through your garage, walk out in your driveway, after only like 5 or 10 minutes, you take the headset off and you feel kind of not dizzy, but like cross-eyed, like things are not right inside your visual processing system inside your brain. And then I can just show really fast kind of some of the samples, because this is the fastest and easiest thing to build into an existing project. It's literally dropping a couple scripts and then going to look up the build settings you need to change because Oculus didn't tell you. But let's see the samples. I think I have right here. And I got to get the right browser going. There it is.
Sorry, you were saying that you don't feel dizzy, but you feel what?
Like cross-eyed. So I guess I would compare it to if you wear somebody else's glasses. And actually, it's a very similar kind of thing. The depth images come into your eye are not right. They are incorrect.
Yeah.
So if you're standing in a room and the walls are far away, you don't notice. If you're holding things by your face, you definitely notice. And if you're foolhardy and you're walking down your stairs and out in your garage, say this because this is my main test that I do a lot, then you're moving through space, and space is kind of warping as it comes closer to the headset. That's the kind of thing they don't want consumers doing, is putting on their Facebook goggles and walking down the stairs and then hiring a lawyer right after that. So some of those things will be locked down definitely by the time they come out.
Right.
But these are just simply the sample things in the SDK. One of the very clever things that's in there that people overlook is you can take away that depth information and essentially just project the video feed onto your own geometry. So in one of their examples, they just give you a flat rectangle, and they tell you to hold your controller against an object, and then that will be the projected depth for all the video feed. So a real obvious one is to hold it against the screen. So this is a plain old 15-inch laptop. And you can get closer to it. One of the things I wanted to show you here, gosh, that's a very short video. And time this right. This is a plain old 15-inch laptop. This is the peak of video quality for pass-through video. You're seeing here, it seems like I'm kind of far away, but in actuality, my face is over the keyboard. My headset is almost touching the screen. And what is the font size that you guys can actually read there on the video? Probably the 40 or 70 point font. Be my guess. That's the same in real life. So make no mistake, you're not going to process any text whatsoever with this. At the very best, I can memorize parts of a GUI and start and stop recording without taking the headset off. But I can't read a single thing while it's on. But one of the interesting things is by smashing down the depth, which has errors in it, you can get something that's very comfortable to view. So I actually think that using this kind of mode will be the way forward for things like keyboards. Because it's correct, it works with any keyboard, and their fancy tracking works with a limited amount. It's impressive that in 3D space, you can place virtual objects and actually stick very well. You can walk out of the room and walk back in, and they're exactly where you left them. This is one that I think the actual thing that people get excited about, this is obviously that same bright room, but you can darken the pass-through and then use a virtual flashlight. So you can imagine kind of a horror movie. Fits very well with this black and white grainy aesthetic thing that's going on with the cameras. You have kind of full control over opacity and such. Pretty much everything that's going to be successful is going to be VR first with a little bit of pass-through. This full-on pass-through stuff I think is going to pass really quickly because it doesn't work well. The headset hardware is not designed to use it. Also, if you have any hopes of doing hand tracking with pass-through, you can't. They haven't officially said it, but there's no single person that's gotten it working. And I would say it's pretty safe to assume that it won't work until they update the SDK or the OpenXR drivers. You can also stylize the pass-through though, and if you ever use this, like in the first Vive release, you remember some of these blue outline things, they called it Tron mode. That kind of thing is a lot easier in your brain than full textured incorrect depth video. So if there's just outlines of doorways and, oops, I can't do this inside a headset. Something like that. You imagine we took out all the black and white data and just had those outlines. That's not going to mess with your perceptual systems in the same way. It'll still give you warnings when you're getting close to stuff. You'll notice that it gets bigger. They give you full control of that. And it's actually really hard to record this video. If you get this demo up and running, you want to walk outside. You want to check out some trees and some shrubs and stuff, because this kind of highlighting of edges really kicks in a crazy way when you're looking at natural stuff, not inside a building, but looking at cement and driveways and plants and so on. It's pretty amazing. So I could see that being its own thing too, if Oculus decides to greenlight it for the store. Just your basic hallucinatory VR app. You can also make arbitrary holes into the pass-through. There's me looking at myself in a mirror. I think this will be a great way to do things where you have a limited amount of real brought into the VR. So I just wanted to show those, hopefully inspire a couple people to get working on it. But I think flashlight and kind of the peephole or the window thing. Do you guys remember when ARKit first came out and the hotness was walking to a place on the sidewalk and then making a portal? And the portal's got this amazing rainbow world that you can step through, and then you're inside. And it looks super impressive on Twitter. Ring a bell for anybody? So in real life, you're just holding up a tablet, right? And all that amazing stuff is happening on a little tablet, so it doesn't feel amazing. It just looks amazing in video. With that peephole concept, you now have the software control to stick your head through that AR window and then go into the real world or come back out through it into a VR world. So that will definitely be a thing where you start your game in pass-through mode and there's super magical door and you step through it and into a VR world. So the transitions like that are now kind of under developer control. We got here for things to watch next. There's a lot of good stuff up there. The people that are coming from HoloLens, this does nothing like HoloLens. I got one clip here from HoloLens launch. So it's very much about compositing video, and like I said, the restrictions are very, very high. Pass-through video can't leave the Quest anymore. So anytime you try to do streaming or screenshots of this stuff, you just get black. Our good friend Screen Copy, it's been used for a lot of developers for a lot of demos. It still works, but that's something that only works in developer mode. So they're kind of sticking to their guns on all the privacy worries, and this video will never leave the headset. You can't even record the video and take it off of the headset. It just won't happen. And because of that, you're also not getting information about the room that you're working inside. So it's a big contrast to the HoloLens. This was literally a few hours into having a HoloLens in 2016, and Bam. This is an old throwing balls. HoloLens is digitize all that geometry for you in a very sloppy way, but you do nothing. That just comes for free. That's the natural thing it does. You get none of that with the Quest. Anything that's going to interact with your walls or your floor or your room, the developer is going to make you rubber controller on the wall to show where the wall is, or
head map.
Touch the chair to show where your wall is.
Follow.
So that this was literally, first project on HoloLens, and the kind of expectations, we get none of that. But we do get a better display, and it's 1/10 the price. So yeah. Any questions on that quick before I move on?
I have something similar. I haven't been following, but is Magic Leap planning on releasing any new headsets, or are they done?
They pivoted to enterprise, so their prices will only go up. And they're in a weird spot, but they're going to announce something they claim by the end of the year. So people are curious, but they're not being nearly as grandiose as they were before. They've got crushing debts and smaller team.
They gave up on the whale?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There is a wave of consumer aimed AR headsets that are coming out. Unreal has been leading the pack. They won't have sensors either. They'll have a more limited field of view, and they'll cost a little more. Unreal, I think, is $700. Is that right, Mark? In that ballpark? There's a whole bunch with almost the exact same hardware that are coming out. They're going to be landing here every few months. There's Chinese factories that pump out the optics, pump out the light engines, and people just have to assemble them, and then you plug them into your Android phone. But the software support's not there, and the sensor support really isn't there. So it'll be kind of portable display more than anything. And it'd be a good one to talk about a little more in the future. But it won't be the field of view that people want, and it won't be the quality that people want, because it can be a see-through display. So you won't get black. You just plain can't do black. You're in a black room, you can have black. If you're outdoors, you can have whatever color the thing you're looking at is as your black. If you're looking at a white sidewalk, you're totally screwed. If you're standing in the shade, you can do a little better. Right one. Whoop. Same thing. Try that again. Alt tab. Control C. Tab Control V. So moving on a little bit, the other thing
This
that
is
I
so insane. That was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced.
Bruh, how many levels are there? Oh
This is going to be so cool! Like, I want to try it.
Arcadia is basically the world's first stadium-sized mixed reality arena, where athletes get to replace avatars in these large-scale games where they're free to run around and compete against each other in these super sports that only we've built. We're getting ready to broadcast these games to global audiences, and it's going to be a spectacle unlike anything you've seen before. It's basically Tron for real.
We wanted to break the conventions of VR. We wanted to strip the walls away, strip away the cords and cables, and let people run free.
We also wanted to make it multiplayer.
Our proprietary Samos Arena perfectly syncs up athletes with one another and with the physical world, so you can confidently play in a shared space with other people. Our Samos Arena is the largest mixed reality play space in the world.
Our athletes can run, jump, dodge each other, and even tackle each other if they want to. You don't have to use joysticks to move around. You just use your body, because that's the most natural and best controller you could ever use in your life. We also built our own proprietary camera system that allows you, the audience, to see exactly what they're playing in the game.
You see them running around the virtual world. You see exactly what they're experiencing.
We've been building this in secret for the past 3 years. These games take inspiration from classic arcades and the modern sports that we love today. They're simple to understand, but they're incredibly hard to master.
put those guys on mute. They're clearly in a fundraising round right now, but presentation-wise, it's very, very impressive. And I haven't seen anybody really push things to this scale. So they started with first off, it's a group in Canada. We won't get to play it. And they started with backpack PCs, and they kind of held on and got to Quest, and now they're doing this with Quest, clearly in violation in all of Oculus's terms of service. So we're happy to answer questions until I started asking questions about tracking, and then they had been coached to not answer any questions about tracking, I think. But it's just really neat to see where this can kind of head. And yeah, it's just exciting to see it, really. In terms of what's actually real, what we might get to play, say on September 9th. Anybody know what we're going to play on September 9th? Anyone? No? Okay. Segway. This would be more impressive if I had a faster way to switch between slides, but...
Say VR and segways?
That's a good idea. Oops, that didn't quite work out, did it? Could have been worse. Let's try that. So who played Space Pirate Trainer? Who owns Space Pirate Trainer on Quest? So you're getting a free copy of Space Pirate Arena on the 9th. What the heck is that? Space Pirate Arena. I don't think they're going to tell us here. Oh, that's just a loop. Here's Space Pirate Arena. Big.
Do they
Go
have
big, please.
Oculus's blessing to make games that use it?
Yeah, so in terms of practical things that are allowed to come to market and show up in the Oculus store, these guys apparently have jumped through the hoops. About two revisions ago on the OS side, they expanded the maximum Guardian play space to 10 meters, so 33 feet to us Americans, or basically exactly half of a basketball court. In more maybe easier to visualize terms, the old maximum play space was just a little bit bigger than my 2-car garage, so just a little bit wider and maybe 4 feet out into my driveway. And now the new maximum play space is that whole garage, half of my driveway, the sidewalk, next to my garage going inside the front door, and then the landing area of my house. So if you haven't played with it, since about OS 29, it is much, much bigger. Probably a lot of us just turn off Guardian completely, but now it's an option to actually leave it on and painstakingly build a very large play space that extends past your walls and doesn't really serve any purpose other than to anchor the tracking. Find better video. So essentially, Space Pirate Arena is going to come out as an add-on for Space Trainer, and it's a 1v1 kind of battle, but in real world space, a very large 10-meter space. And you physically move around and duck and dodge. Okay, we're just getting to the comment graphic. So yeah, we're definitely going to try to set up some sort of, we're going to figure out where this thing actually works, and then try to do some actual in-person meetup kind of thing. Bring your own Quest so we don't spread diseases, and give this thing a shot. But it's exciting to see. So you will need a 10 meter by 10 meter space. Find your nearest basketball court or tennis court. The Quest 2 does not like sunlight. It likes shade just fine during the day. So also figure out when the trees are blocking that half of the tennis court you're going to use. And
did you say you
should
need
be really
30
exciting.
feet? Like you can't play it smaller, you need it 30 by 30?
Correct. That's what they claim,
That's
yep.
the requirement. It will not work
Yeah.
unless the space is big enough.
But if you think of the OS software, right, you can draw a Guardian that goes through your walls. It doesn't stop you. So you can make a space that's doesn't exist and is unsafe, and then you can just smack into your real-life walls. There's nothing stopping you from using it in a yard. You don't want to trip because the ground's going to be uneven, but you can play in a yard as well. So yeah, it's just some kind of exciting stuff, and it's real kind of sketchy and way out there, but it's the kind of thing I worked up about.
If you were on a slope though with the tracking, wouldn't you just like go flying up into the air compared to the other people who are on a flat ground?
That's a good question. Yeah, how's it going to deal with ground elevation change, right? If you do this in your driveway and your driveway's not flat, what's it going to do? I guess you'd probably levitate, would be my guess. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bigger advantage would be on the go down, and then your head's just poking up above the ground.
Yep, it's one of the classic ways to cheat in VR competitive stuff. Oh. Cool. Yeah, so that's kind of all I had. I'll probably circle back here in the future to go into detail on the pass-through stuff, because that is my jam. I've always been an AR guy, but it doesn't exist yet, not affordably at all, or not without severe compromises. So it's just kind of seeing what is possible with the Quest, and then what design things kind of have to wait until other hardware like the Lynx comes out. Because of the AR VR A event 4 weeks from now, that's kind of our typical meeting time, is the 4th Wednesday. We'll probably bump this meeting to the 5th Wednesday, but if you sign up for this event, you'll get an invite for that. So cool. Any other last thoughts here before we sign off the stream and start just mingling? All right, let's cut there, cameraman. Cut. Died. All right, good.